Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. I wanted to talk a little bit more about this. I guess we're going to call it the second accelerator program that Aptera has. So this is their current website, and they put a counter up, which is kind of fun to watch. It's just like the accelerator leaderboard that we had with the first accelerator program, and they said 723 priority delivery spots left. That means almost 300 people have put down at least $5,000 more into the program. That is roughly $1.5 million. So they've raised about $1.5 million in a few days since they announced this, which is good. It's definitely keeping them afloat. And I put this poll up asking what people's thoughts were, and it looks like 31% of the people who invested previously are going to invest more. 40% of the people that invested previously are not. Okay, actually, 31% of the people have invested more and plan to invest more. So that means roughly what if you take out of all the people that invested, these people represent 70%. So 31% of 70%. So let me do that calculation real fast. So 42% of the people that had previously invested plan on investing again, and 58% of the people that invested previously do not plan to invest more. And then of the people that have not invested, only 7% are. Okay, no, I take that back. The people in this poll, the people that haven't invested are about 30%. So 7% of 30% is 23%. So 23% of the people that haven't invested before, who are interested in Aptera, plan to invest now. And then the majority of them, 75%, plan on not investing still. So it looks like more people than not plan on not investing based on this. However, there is a significant number of people that plan on investing. Now, of course, this poll is completely unscientific. It has a sample size of 653 votes, and it represents people that both watch this channel and took the time to take this poll. And so the people that watch this channel are people I think that are very interested in Aptera, because otherwise, why would you listen to a guy that just talks about Aptera most of the time, almost every other day? You have to be sort of a super fan to watch this channel. And so I think that in the wider group of people that know about Aptera, the numbers are going to skew a little bit worse. Okay. And then when I read the comments here, most of these people are believe that, like, I still believe in Aptera and will hopefully invest more. If we don't back what we believe in, we aren't making a difference. I wish I could afford to. I'm going to squeeze my budget this month for $1,000 to get Aptera to production. So people really believe in the mission, and they're scraping together money to invest into this. And so these are not wealthy people. They're not people using just like a lot of just excess money that they have laying around that they don't need. They're actually saving and scraping to help fund this, which is laudable. But I want to make sure that people understand what they're getting into, and I hope they do. And this video is probably going to upset some people, but understand that I'm a super fan. I run this channel. I love the Aptera. I want one, and I've wanted one since their first iteration back in 2009. I forget how long ago it was now, but a long time. I had a thing on the first one. I invested in them. Now I invested a small amount. It's such a small amount that if I lost it all, would make no meaningful difference in my finances. But again, I've always said I just think of it as a donation, and if I lose it completely, I'm 100% fine with it. And in many ways, the success of this channel is tied to the success of Aptera. If Aptera succeeds as a company, then my channel succeeds, and probably the viewership will grow. And so I have a vested interest in having Aptera succeed. And of course, I want them to succeed. But this is a very risky situation. And here's the situation that Aptera is at. So Aptera had a convertible note offering with US Capital Global. That obviously did not work out. And I'm going to make a lot of assumptions, but I think that they're educated assumptions in this video. So if this US Capital Global offering had worked out, we would know about it. Aptera would tout it, and they would say, "Hey, wonderful, we raised the money, we're doing great, we're going to go into funding." You know, that's what what we would have come out, and it would be in their SEC report. But what we know is this U.S. Capital Global raise did not go well at all. They raised almost basically nothing. I think far less than $1 million. And this did not succeed. Their other option was going to IPO, but IPO is not going to work out. The markets are scared. Startup EV stocks have been pummeled even before the markets are scared. Like this is a recent article from 2 days ago talking about David Solomon, what he thinks is going on. He says we're entering the second quarter with a markedly different operating environment than earlier this year, and nod to the unknown triggered by President Trump's aggressive slate of new tariffs. He told analysts that economic growth had been slowing down even before the new trade policies, and the implementation of those policies reset the prospect of forward growth pretty significantly throughout the world. The firm's corporate investing clients are concerned by the significant near-term and long-term uncertainty that has constrained their ability to make important decisions, and uncertainty about the path forward amount to material risk for the U.S. and global economy. The prospect of recession has increased with growing indication that economic activity is slowing down around the world. And they said that their deal making is way down. Yeah. So the amount of deals that they want to do, IPOs, investments is going down. This is being seen by many other investment firms. So JP Morgan Chase said there's considerable turbulence. Clients have become more cautious and amid an increase in market volatility driven by geopolitical and trade-related tensions. And then BlackRock CEO says that sweeping tariff announcements went further than I could imagine in my 49 years in finance. Uncertainty and anxiety about the future of markets and the economy are dominating client conversations. So this milieu is not conducive to going to IPO. So Aptera realizes that they don't have a production. They're not in production. The markets are terrible. Investors are scared. Large investors are scared, and in uncertainty, they're not going to want to deploy capital. And so convertible note raise did not succeed. IPO not going to work. Debt financing. I'm sure if there were debt financing terms that were favorable or even viable, Aptera would have taken them. But I doubt that there's enough debt. No one's going to lend Aptera $30 million or $60 million or however $1 million they need in the current situation where capital is tight and this is super risky. And I don't think they have the collateral to cover that amount of debt financing. So they're basically crowdfunding. This second accelerator program is their only option. If this does not succeed, then Aptera is not going to make it. That's kind of how I'm interpreting the whole situation. So you can look at this two ways. One way is that now is the time for the community to come together and support Aptera and get them to succeed. And I think that is true. That is true that this is their only path forward. However, understand that even if the community gets together and raises $30 million, there is no guarantee of success. There is no guarantee that the 3,000 people, the 2,000 accelerators, and the 1,000 people that are going to line up for the second accelerator program are going to get an Aptera, even if they raise $30 million. Let's look at the different possibilities. You guys remember that I made this video about Sono when they were doing a very similar thing. They were asking for deposits on their Scion as a last-ditch effort to save their solar car. And I said in this video that I felt like this was kind of an act of desperation, and that if Aptera came to this, we would know that Aptera is desperate. And Aptera has come to this. So we know Aptera is desperate. At least that's my interpretation of it. And what could happen here, one possibility is the same thing that happened with Sono, that they do not raise enough money to make it to production. Now, in this case, Sono had a slightly different way of doing it. They had it that people would pledge their money, and if it didn't meet the 100 million euro threshold, they would give all the money back to the people. So Aptera is not running it that way, and I don't know if they can run it that way. I asked them if they could, and I haven't gotten an answer from them. But they haven't made it so that, like, if they make it to 30 million, then everyone invests. If they don't make it to 30 million, then no one invests. So there is a possibility that so far almost 300 people have invested about, who knows, at least around $1.5 million. And if they don't make it to 30 million, it's going to keep the lights on for a few more months. But it's not going to be enough to get to production. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that they make it to production. So remember, the U.S. capital raise, they needed $60 million to make it to low volume production. Okay. And that was the idea, that they would raise $60 million and towards late 2024, early 2025, they were going to, it was going to unlock these CEC grants and the equipment financing. That's what they're saying now, is that the 30 million crowdfunding is going to unlock another additional 30 million in debt financing, equipment financing, and the CEC government grants. That's what they're talking about. And so if they make it to that, that's going to get them to low volume production. So that means maybe they'll put out, 100, maybe 50, 20, who knows? Who knows what low volume production means? This was their projection, that they were going to produce 371 cars by the end of 2025. So I believe that this is kind of considered low volume production. So this would get us to low volume production if this crowdfunding raise happens. Okay. And then after that, they must raise an additional $170 million to get to high volume production. Okay. And then this would have to go, like, I do not think that you can raise this kind of money through crowdfunding. So I seriously doubt that you're going to be able to raise this kind of money through crowdfunding. They're going to have to go IPO. And at IPO, are they going to be able to raise this in a year or less with the current geopolitical and financial situation in the world? Who knows? We can't make predictions about the future, but this is a tough call right here. So what happens is if we don't make it to 30 million, we end up like Sono Motors. If we end up like Sono Motors. If we make it to this part, that's kind of like you've produced some vehicles and you just can't raise money to get to large volume production. That's kind of what happened with Archimoto. I mean, there's slight differences with all of these, but Archimoto delivered some vehicles, but their vehicle for various reasons did not succeed. I think it was too expensive for what it was. There was not as large a market as they thought, and they just couldn't make it profitably, and they couldn't raise the funds to ramp up, and they shuttered. And then there was Electromechanica. They also delivered several hundred vehicles. Then their vehicles had flaws in them, and they shuttered. Same thing with Fisker. Fisker made several vehicles. They have several hundred customer deliveries. There were flaws in their vehicle, and they couldn't keep. They ran out of money. They also shuttered. So these three companies, they kind of died somewhere in this scaled production thing. They just could not get to large scale production, or there were flaws in their vehicle. And these are things that could potentially happen to Aptera. Then let's say somehow they make it through this and they make it to large scale production. Even at large scale production here, you can see that Aptera's, this is their estimate. So Aptera's estimate is going to be very optimistic because they're trying to put their best face forward to investors. They're losing $120 million. So they need to raise even more capital to stay afloat. And that's the place where Lucid and Rivian are at right now. So Lucid and Rivian are somewhat successful companies. They are still financially viable. They produce very nice vehicles. And Rivian has, turned a profit per vehicle, but as a company, they're still losing money overall. And so they're still needing to raise money, and they're still dipping into their cash reserves. So Rivian, a company that is selling lots of vehicles and is profitably assembling each vehicle, still cannot cover their other operational costs from their vehicle sales, and overall they're losing money. Lucid is still losing money on a per vehicle basis, and they're only staying afloat because Saudi Arabia is still dumping tons of money into them and probably will not let them fail. Um, so the future of Rivian and Lucid are still somewhat in the air. Now, as an investor today, if you invest in this, if Aptera makes it to this stage and goes IPO, then at least you have some liquidity. You can sell your stock and you can exit at some point. You're not locked in. Currently, if Aptera does not make it to this stage and does not go IPO, there's zero liquidity to our investments, and there's no exit. You can't exit if you decide that you made a bad decision, or you need the money back. There's no way out. You're kind of stuck in there. So there are many places that this can go south, and there's so far been one company that's made it, and it's been Tesla. And the chances that Aptera makes it through this entire gauntlet of potential areas that it can fail and makes it to Tesla is very low. It's extremely low. Now, that sounds very grim, but that's the reality of any startup company, especially a startup company in a space like this. Okay. Now, a lot of people who watch this channel are true believers. They're like, we have such an amazing product. Like, we all want this vehicle. I want it. I love it. Like, this, for me, it is if I could build a vehicle myself, this is the vehicle that I would build. It's so the form follows the function. It looks great. I have no doubts about their engineering metrics. I believe that it's efficient, and if you drive this car around, you're going to get tons of attention. I love attention, and I would love talking to strangers about it and talking about how efficient it is and how it's great. I mean, it'd just be great. And I have all these plans on this channel to host videos about how to fix the vehicle, how-tos on fixing, how-tos on modification, have videos about Aptera adventures that the community sends in. I have all these plans, and I hope that they get realized. But understand that the gauntlet that Aptera has to get through to get to this phase is tough. And so make your decision wisely based on that. Know the risk that you're taking on by doing that. If you are scraping together money to invest in this, know that you are investing in a very high risk investment, and know that it is more likely to fail than it is to succeed. Even now, even though that we're very close. I mean, we have this amazing vehicle. They're testing it out. They're validating it. It looks great. It works great. But despite that, despite how close we are, there are still so many steps you have to get through before it becomes a successful company that can that is profitable and growing and self-sustaining. There's many steps at which you can fall off the cliff as you drive down this road to success. Okay, so just keep that in mind, everyone, before you do that. But also know, if this crowdfunding fails, then this is probably the end for Aptera. As much as it hurts me to say that, um, I think that's true because this is where Sono was. And I remember when I made this video. I made this video 2 years ago, and I was like, I hope we don't end up here because this is kind of a um, last ditch effort to save the company. And I think that's where we're at. And you have to decide, do I have the risk tolerance to get into this? And do I believe that Aptera is going to survive this gauntlet enough that I can recoup my investment into this thing? And that's a decision that everyone has to make for themselves. Now, I'm sure many of you are going to disagree with my analysis. And of course, I'm not a financial analyst, and my predictions about stocks have been woefully bad. And I've said that multiple times. I did not invest in Tesla when it, I knew about Tesla when it started, when they had the first Roadster. When they went IPO, I was like, this company is 100% going to fail because like GM or Ford or Toyota or like, Honda is going to just squash them. They're going to just take their technology or, develop technology just like them and just outcompete them by scale. And there's no way this company is going to succeed. That's what I thought. And then, as you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, I invested in Lucid. I've lost 98% of my investment in Lucid. So my track record for predictions is terrible. So maybe that's good news for Aptera. That I think the chances are not good. Maybe that means that chances are good. I don't know, but I believe that Aptera is a high risk investment, and you should invest accordingly. Know that it's very high risk, and understand that the probability of you losing your money completely is much higher than the probability of you getting your money back or of making a lot of money with this investment. I'm not saying it's impossible. And if I would have made this video about Tesla, I would have been saying the same thing. At this stage, when Tesla was at this stage, I would have told everyone the chances of Tesla failing, extremely high. The chances of Tesla making it and you making a lot of money on it, extremely low. Now, in that case, I would have been extremely wrong. But I'm making that case for Aptera right now and saying that the chances of Aptera becoming Tesla is very low, and invest accordingly. And anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I'm sure I'm going to catch a lot of flack in the comments about this. Probably a bunch of you are going to unsubscribe for me not being, quote, a true believer. But I am a true believer in the car. I just understand what the situation of the market is. It's just not good. And making EV startup companies and solar EV startup companies, it's just a high risk endeavor. Most EV startup companies have failed, and most solar EV startup companies have failed. Lightyear failed, and Sono failed, and Aptera was the only one left. And hopefully Aptera doesn't fail, but the odds are definitely stacked against them. All right, well, I'm gonna get an earful in the comments, and I will read them. Thanks for watching, guys.